probably thinking there's no way having a tidy home just boils down to one thing and one thing alone, but I'm telling you, it really does. It's really simple. The problem is that there are so many obstacles that can stop you from doing this one thing. So that's really what we're talking about in this video. Let's go. Hey, how's it going? It's Laura, and I have some stuff that's been hand washed here. I'm just going to put it away while we have the chats, and I'm just going to dive right in and tell you straight off the bat what the thing is. It's putting things away when you're done. It sounds so simple, but there are so many things that can trip you up along the way. I like to call it resetting your space. It's just kind of getting it back to zero, not necessarily like having a completely clear surface, but resetting things so that the next time you come to use that space, it's ready to go. You don't have to clear a whole pile of stuff out of the way first. You can just get to work. But let me tell you the first thing that is going to trip you up in this regard. It is not having a designated home for things, or that home not being kind of like fit for purpose, it not being the right home. Maybe it's like too far away, maybe it's awkward to get to, maybe it's already full of other stuff. I genuinely, firmly believe that the vast majority of clutter in our homes, certainly in my home, is stuff that I kind of don't know what to do with. Like, it doesn't really have a space to go, or I haven't taken the time to think about where it should go, and so I just drop it on a surface somewhere and I think I'll just deal with that later. Like, like a lot of clutter is just I'll deal with it later stuff. It's like you don't have a spot for it, you don't know what to do with it, so you just drop it. You have to decide where your stuff is going to go, and then you'll know where to put it. Let me spell something out to you that I like constantly have to tell myself. It's that home, like wherever you choose to put that thing, it doesn't have to be a permanent or perfect home. Like, I'm a perfectionist and I get caught up all the time in thinking, you know, well, I can't put this somewhere until I have the perfect system worked out for it, until I have like cleared that shelf, or until I have it all, I don't know, like color coordinated, or until I have like the perfect bin to put it in, like whatever. The home that you choose for it does not have to be perfect, and it does not have to be permanent, which is important because sometimes you don't really know where something goes or where it will fit in best. So just make a best guess at it. Like, think to yourself, okay, if I were to look for this thing, where would I go looking for it? Like, where's the first place I would look? Or what is something similar that I already own, and where do I put that stuff? Or very simply, like, where do I most use this thing? Like, if you most use it in the kitchen, it should go somewhere in your kitchen. If you most use it in like the bathroom, like, it should go in your bathroom. Like, where are you when you would normally reach for that thing? And then that is where it should go. But again, it does not have to be permanent. Like, maybe you put it there and you realize after a while, this is actually awkward, or actually I thought I used it in this space, but I more so use it in this other space. You can tweak and change as you go. But very often you won't. Like, I remember when we first moved over to the States and we had a moving company, and they came and they unpacked all of our stuff and actually put it away. I did not expect movers to do that. I thought they would just like drop all of our boxes and then leave. But this particular company, they unpacked everything because they wanted to take all the materials with them, like all the boxes and stuff. They unpacked everything and they put it away, and the guys were kind of like, you know, where do you want us to put this stuff? And I was like, oh, just leave it on the counters. And they were like, no, we can like put it away in cupboards and, you know, on shelves and whatever for you. I was like, no, I don't really know where exactly I want it to go. So, you know, just put it all on the counters and I will decide then. I don't know why I did that to myself. Like, I should have just let them put it away, because what happened in the end was I inevitably ended up just shoving things in random cupboards because I didn't have the time to figure out the perfect place for stuff to go. And guess what? We just kept the stuff in those places. Like, it worked out just fine. Anyway, what I'm saying is just pick a spot. You don't have to overthink it. Just make sure that that spot is reasonably easily accessible and that it isn't already overcrowded with stuff, in which case something will have to give. Here's a little top tip for you. You need to have a spot for like transient or temporary things. You know, the way like you've got some stuff and it's not, you know, it's not going to stay in your home. Like it's a form that you have to fill out, or library books that you know that you have to return. All those things that don't really deserve a permanent spot because they're not going to be a permanent fixture in your home. Have somewhere for those things to go, because those are huge culprits when it comes to you know, like clutter on your surfaces. You drop the stuff there, like it's post letters and stuff that you need to go through, or it's that paperwork that you have to like flick through, or receipts that you have to file. Have a home, like a temporary home, for that stuff to go also. That one is going to make a big difference. Okay, this next one was a huge eye-opener for me. Like when I figured this out, it made everything else so much easier. And that is that you need to get to the root cause of the problem. Like, why is this space not tidy? Or why, after I tidy it, does it end up messy again? Because that's the thing, like you can tidy stuff over and over again. Like you could spend your whole life tidying your home, but if it's just going to get messy again immediately afterwards, you need to stop and start asking yourself, okay, why is this happening? And obviously you live in your home. Okay, spaces are going to get messy. Like you're going to be cooking, so your countertops are going to end up like covered in dirty dishes and stuff. That's normal. But there are other spaces, like let's say your dining table. Like you clear that off, you think, right, okay, we're going to keep this clear because this is where we're going to eat our meals, and then inevitably it ends up covered in paperwork and random crafting things and other bits and bobs. That's when you need to step back and ask yourself, what is happening here? Why does this space keep ending up messy? And I'll tell you what is one of the big ones for me. So we have a problem. I have a problem with dirty dishes left lying around. As you can tell, I am now like drying and putting them away. But I realized the reason that they keep being left by the sink or in the sink just around on the countertops is because the dishwasher is full, and not just full of dirty stuff. No. See, even when the stuff has like been through a cycle and it's all lovely and clean, I hate emptying the dishwasher. I don't know what it is. Like it literally takes about 2 minutes for me to empty the dishwasher, and I will avoid it for like 2 weeks before I will actually do it. And that is why stuff ends up on the counters, like all the dirty dishes, because somebody looks in, and that somebody is me, looks in and is like, oh, the dishwasher is full. I could empty it right now, or I could just leave this dirty dish here in the sink and then somebody else will empty the dishwasher. But let me tell you what happens. Somebody else comes along, the next person comes along, my husband or my daughter, and they see a dirty dish in the sink and they think, oh, the dishwasher must be full. I'll also leave my dirty dish here. Clutter or mess attracts more mess. As soon as you put something down, it will just attract things. It's kind of like it sends a signal to everyone else that like, this is the place for this stuff to go. Like if you have a chair in your room and you want to keep that chair nice and clean because that's where you curl up and you know, read or whatever. For me, I'm a big bookworm, so that's it for me. But as soon as I like put an item of clothing on that chair or something, it is a free-for-all. Okay, and I made that mistake because my husband now sees that chair as a place to just drop clothes, and it's my own fault. Like I set the precedent. But yeah, my point is, if you do not fix the problem, like the root problem, or if you create the problem and don't fix it, you are never going to get out of that cycle of having to tidy a space or clear off a space and then having it messy again. It will just continue on and on forever and ever. Ask me how I know. Really get to the root cause. Why does this stuff end up here, and what can I do to solve that problem so this never happens again? Okay, now let's be honest, and we've kind of already alluded to this, but sometimes the problem is other people. Like other people come along and leave a mess. This is one of the hardest things for me to deal with. Like I really struggle with this, but I'm no expert, but I have found some kind of strategies that have worked over the years. Now, are they 100% effective 100% of the time? No, but definitely the situation is much better than it used to be. First, and it sounds so ridiculously simple, but I realized this recently, it was kind of like a light bulb moment for me. You have to communicate with other people about where things go. You can't just expect them to know. I realized this recently when I was like, why does my husband always put the cheese or whatever in the wrong place in the fridge? Like, surely he should know that all the dairy stuff goes on the top shelf. But had I ever told him that? No, he just opens the fridge. He doesn't see like, oh, all the dairy is categorized on the top shelf of the fridge. He just opens the fridge. He's like, I'll put the cheese in here in this like blank empty spot. Like, it might be obvious to you where something goes, but it might not be obvious to someone else. And sometimes labels help, particularly with kids. Yeah, sometimes it's just as simple as saying, hey, this thing, it goes in this other place, like a place other than where you have been dropping it. Another one then is creating a regular habit and a routine. This is something that I am currently working on, particularly with my daughter, because she's not in the routine of putting things away when she's done. She's not in the routine of, you know, dressing her bed in the morning or taking down the glass of water that she brought up the night before. All of those random things. Instead, what I find I have done over the years is just, you know, ask her to tidy her room or go in and help her tidy up her room. But I haven't really helped her to establish those habits and routines that will make it so we don't have to go in every few weeks and tidy up. It's really about maintenance. And you don't have to be overly prescriptive about it. Sometimes you have to set specific ground rules if the situation has got out of hand or if it's becoming like dangerous or just a bit of a hazard. So, you know, a ground rule that like nothing is to be left on the floors, like no towels, we'll say, left on the floor in the bathroom or something like that. Just like keep reinforcing it and keep coming back to it. And yes, you will have times where you slip up, but getting back on the horse, getting back on the wagon and continuing and building up that muscle of maintenance. A question that I ask myself that has actually really helped is, you know, if I come across a mess that somebody else in the house has left, before I go into full like rampage mode, I ask myself, have I ever done this? So like if I see shoes left lying on the floor, I ask myself, have I ever left my shoes lying around? The answer is always yes. And I ask myself, okay, why might that be? Like, okay, maybe I came home and I was absolutely exhausted, kicked my shoes off, meant to deal with them, but then was so tired that I maybe like fell asleep, like I nodded off on the couch, or maybe I immediately got distracted because the dog needed to go outside, or, you know, like random things like that. So asking yourself, have I ever done this thing? But yeah, living with other people is not something I recommend. But there are, like I said, those certain strategies that I've put in place that over the years have made it much more tolerable, easy. But a lot of it does come down, like my husband has really taught me how to let go a lot, and that might come as, like, if he's watching this, he's kind of like, have you let go at all? But I like to think that like I was on this end of the spectrum, he was like all the way over here on the end of the spectrum, and I think just by living together and like growing together, we have ever so slightly moved closer to each other. Like we're never going to be on the same level when it comes to tidiness and various other things, but just, you know, realizing that I can give a little bit, like I don't have to be as type A about every single thing. I can let some things go. And my husband, and I know, and he said this to me recently, like he is slightly more organized. Like he made up a spreadsheet recently for something and I was like, whew. But we have helped each other along the way. Now I've already talked about this next one, but I do think it's worth reiterating, and that is having those habits and routines in place. And this could be as simple as dealing with the post as soon as it comes in, you know, not just dropping it on the counter, but getting into the habit of dealing with it, like going through it, opening it up, seeing what needs to be done with it, recycling the junk mail immediately. It's a really simple thing that you can just build up over time that is going to ensure that your home stays tidy. Again, it's just that habit of dealing with something, like putting it away or putting it where it needs to go, instead of just dropping it somewhere. And it's about starting really small, like really small. So maybe for you, having a tidy home might start with putting your dirty clothes in the hamper before you go to bed each night. For you, it might start with, you know, dealing with your mail when it comes in. It might start with emptying the dishwasher as soon as it has run through a cycle. It's putting those tiny habits in place and putting one in place at a time until you have it down, like until it is definitely a habit that you have formed, and then adding to it over time. And you'll be amazed how quickly all of that adds up, not just in the sense of keeping your home tidy and getting into that maintenance mode, but even just creating that standard for other people so that they can see it and they can get into the habit of also doing the same. You're setting the precedent, you are kind of like leading by example, I guess. But a tidy home could start with something as simple as a tidy dining table. Pick one habit, build from there. I also want you to give yourself grace. This is something that I am still working on, like realizing my home does not have to be a show home. I don't have to be ready at all times to welcome someone in. I don't have to have things picture perfect. It's not like, I don't know, like a magazine is just gonna knock on my door randomly someday and be like, hey, let us in to photograph your house. Like, that's just not realistic. I've realized that when I go to other people's homes, I'm not like scrutinizing every single thing. I know anytime that I have gone through a phase where I have tried to keep my home immaculate, it has come at my expense. Like, it's come at the expense of my energy and my mood and my attitude. And when I spend all of this time trying to make sure the house is absolutely perfect and, like patrolling all the time, I am not getting to enjoy my home. Like, I am the one who is here pretty much 100% of the time. And if I'm stressing myself out for those like 1% of occasions when somebody else might pop over, that is a total waste of energy. It is a total waste of my life and my enjoyment of my home. Don't give up the 99% for the 1%. Now, obviously, keeping something tidy is not the same as keeping something clean. Like, tidying is about organizing things and having them a certain way, like having them in the proper place, whereas cleaning involves dealing with dust and dirt. That stuff still needs to be done as well, but there are some hacks and shortcuts that will help you get through that work a lot quicker. I have shared some of my best ones right here, so go check that out. And until then, go raibh míle maith agaibh. Agus feici mé sibh sigh luath. Slán!